Hi guys, I have the Insta360 One R and the GoPro Max. Because I have both of these, I've had a lot of people ask me, which one's better? Stay tuned, we're gonna answer that question. But first, really quick, I want to tell you about some of my own merch. This mini tripod, I launched it as kind of a fundraiser for my YouTube channel. This hooks up great with your action cameras. You can also attach it to regular cameras as well. Please check this out, link in the description below. I have other merch too, that's in the same link. Now let's go ahead and get into this and shoot some side-by-side comparisons. That's why I have this hooked on this ridiculous looking rig so that we can shoot side-by-side, have simultaneous recording and be able to compare the footage pretty accurately. My first test run was through my backyard, just running as fast as I could. I was even purposefully shaking this around so that we could compare the image stabilization, and they were both phenomenal, okay? They're really good. I will say, after scrutinizing both of these video clips for a long time, I came to the conclusion that the Max was just a little bit better, so point for GoPro Max. Before we get too much further, I should mention that the Max comes in at $500 and the One R comes in at $430. As far as price is concerned, that's a point for the One R. Now jumping into the specs of these cameras, the GoPro Max is shooting 3K at 60 frames per second, 5.6K at 30 frames per second, whereas the One R is looking at 3K at up to 100 frames per second and 5.7K at up to 30 frames per second. Point for the One R when it comes to both resolution and frame rate. Through all of the test footage that I shot, I was paying attention to the dynamic range, and the dynamic range was always better on the One R. If you don't know what dynamic range is, that's how far you can see into shadows and how far you can see into highlights in the same clip. Look at the shadow in this tree here on the ground. It's really mild on the One R, but the Max, it has pretty harsh shadows, so dynamic range for the Insta360, and also the colors I felt like were just a little bit more vibrant and pleasant than the GoPro Max were. So color goes to One R. I was really curious as to how these two cameras performed in low light conditions, so I shot some test footage. Let me go ahead and show you that. Alright, I'm gonna do a low light comparison here. Gonna head back here. It's the darkest place in my house. Wow, the GoPro has not lost any quality at all that I can tell, but the Max on the other hand has quite a bit of grain going on there. So that is a point for the GoPro Max, actually being a little bit better when it comes to low light performance. Let's go ahead and look at the stitch line. I have this video clip right here that shows the stitch line really obviously on the Insta360, and the GoPro, you could see it a little bit right at the beginning and then it just went away. You didn't see the stitch line at all. Have to give another point to GoPro for having better software putting together their stitch line. With the One R already ahead by 1 point, we now move into the realm of camera features that the Max doesn't even have. Starting off with HDR mode, which boosts the dynamic range even further than it was, and the Insta360 was already better at dynamic range. So add HDR photo and video on top of that, we get some crazy dynamic range. We also have a star time-lapse mode. That's pretty impressive for any action camera out there. And at this point, I'm not even going to keep track of points anymore, because I'm not going to delve into all of the extra features that you can do with the Insta360 app. There's a whole bunch of fun stuff you can do with your videos in the app that the GoPro Max doesn't offer. So that's a pretty big deal to me. And now, for the Insta360 grand finale, the giant flying Hulk punch to the GoPro Max, which is this little guy right here. When you buy the Insta360 for an extra $50, you can get the Insta360 One R Twin Edition, which comes with an extra lens and sensor. The Insta360 breaks in half, and you can take the lens and sensor off, that's the 360 camera, and replace it with more of a traditional action camera lens and sensor. And this does 4K at 60 frames per second, 2.7K at 100 frames per second, and 1080p up to 200 frames per second. It has really good image stabilization, and it just makes for a great regular style action camera that's not 360. This is very on par with the GoPro Hero 8 Black, which is crazy impressive because it's only $50 extra to get this, which puts you right in competition with the GoPro Hero 8 Black, and you're still under the original price of the Max. If you were gonna buy the GoPro Max and the GoPro Hero 8 Black, you'd be up to $800. But you're getting a comparable package with the Insta360 One R Twin Edition. So to me, that is what makes the Insta360 One R Twin Edition a GoPro Max killer. Is that it's kind of like a GoPro Max and a Hero 8 Black for the price of one. So that pretty much sums it up for this video. Go watch some of my other videos right here. If you want a GoPro Max or an Insta360, both of them are linked in the description below. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't already. I'm making lots of videos, so stay tuned. I'll see you guys real soon.